Tu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvina Vadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. O Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamada Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shruti Smriti Puranam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpadam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutrabhashyakrutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye. Om Namo Brahmadibhyo Brahma Vidya Sampradaya Kartrubhyah Vamsharshibhyah Mahadbyah Namo Gurubhyah. In the passage 23, it was said, Yadvai tanna pashyati, pashyanvai tanna pashyati, nahi drashtuhu drushte viprilopa vidyate avinashitvat. So this is sort of one of the important verses. Yadvai tanna pashyati, that in deep sleep he does not see anything, meaning that in deep sleep we have no particular knowledge at all. There is darkness of ignorance. Therefore, you can say that Atma does not see anything in deep sleep. Pashyanvai tanna pashyati. While seeing, he does not see. While seeing, because consciousness is the nature of the self, therefore it always shines. In that sense, you say that he always sees. At the same time, he does not have the means to see particular things. He doesn't have the mind, sense organs, etc., and even the objects perception not there. Therefore, the particular Vishesha Jnanam is not there. His Swarupa Jnanam is there. Two kinds of knowledge is there. Swarupa Jnanam. Jnanam, the knowledge that is the essential nature. And essential nature cannot not be, therefore he always shines as consciousness. So Pashyan, he even in deep sleep also, he shines in his consciousness and therefore he sees. The Pashyati. The second kind of seeing is the Vishesha Jnanam, particular knowledge. See, we have Samanya Jnanam and Vishesha Jnanam. So that this flower is Asti, Bhati, shines, Priyam, this is the Samanya Jnanam, the universal knowledge or the common knowledge that applies to every name and form. And then I know this entity as flower, this is the Vishesha Jnanam or particular knowledge. With reference to every entity, there is Samanya, Amsha or Samanya aspect and the Vishesha, the particular aspect, that this entity is applies to everything, that it shines in my consciousness applies to everything, that it has an attractiveness, applies to everything. We see that attractiveness is a debatable issue. And Swamiji, I am not attracted to this, you are attracted. Even you also will be attracted. Meaning that this object has the potential of being the source of happiness for you also. By you I mean someone who says, I don't care for this, I don't like it. For that person also this object has, or any object for that matter, has the potential of being the source of happiness. When a change happens in that person, when his mind becomes free from rajas and ragadveshas, his mind becomes sattvic, then even this entity also can become the source of happiness. Therefore, for us also, for anybody, everything can be a source of happiness. Everything is an object of happiness. The asti and bhati, that it is and that shines in my consciousness, does not require a particular state of mind. But that it is dear, it is attractive, it is source of happiness, requires a particular kind of mind, a sattvic mind. Therefore there is a debate whether or not this is attractive. That this source of happiness is a matter of debate, but that is there as long as our mind is not sensitive enough to experience the happiness or attractiveness that this entity has. And there a change is required in our own mind, that our mind should become sattvic. Then it sees things as they are. That mind sees Ishvara everywhere. So, Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma, all this that is Brahman, that is true for a person enjoying a sattvic mind. Meaning a mind that does not project. Rajas means projection, tamas means veiling. So we veil what is and project what is not. That is the usual case with the mind. But when rajas and tamas are not there, Ishvara who is there is not veiled. And the jagat that is not there is not projected. Ishvara that is there is not veiled. And jagat that is not there is not projected. Then I see everything as asti, bhati, priyam. That is by the way, but the point is that, so that is never negated. And therefore in deep sleep also it is said that we feel that I do not know anything in deep sleep state, or that Atma does not see anything in deep sleep. Is seeing, he does not see. That Swarupa Jnanam, the consciousness which is the nature of the Atma, is ever there, always shines. In that sense he sees. The Vishesha Jnanam, that in the deep sleep state, these objects do not shine because the means required for that, namely, the mind and sense organs are not there. Therefore, I don't have the Vishesha Jnanam. So he sees, meaning Swarupa Jnanam is there. Pashyan vidna pashyati, does not see, meaning that Vishesha Jnanam is not there. The knowledge which is my nature is always there. The knowledge arising from the perception of an object is not there in deep sleep because the equipment required, the mind and sense organs, are not there in the deep sleep. How do you say that he sees? I don't see in deep sleep state. It says while seeing, he does not see. How do you say while seeing? Nahi drashtuhu drashte viprilopa vidyate. The sight of the seer never suffers a cessation, meaning that to see is the nature of Atma. Consciousness. So who actually sees? The eyes see, of course, an object. But when can the eyes see? Of course, when the eyes are illuminated by the mind. When can the mind see? When the mind is illuminated by self or consciousness. So ultimately, who is the ultimate seer? Eyes are not ultimate seer, it is the consciousness the ultimate seer. So he sees. And to see is the nature, therefore, pashyanvai, always seeing. But the particular flower, etc., require the mind and sense organs. They are not there in deep sleep. Therefore, na pashyati, he does not see. How do you say he sees? Because seeing is the nature of itself, consciousness. Therefore, seeing, the nature never suffers a cessation. It never ceases to be there. Fire is always hot, and so Atma is always conscious. Nahi drashtuhu drashte viprelopa vidyate. The seeing of the seer, that is, the consciousness of Atma never suffers a cessation, avinashitvad, because it is a nature, therefore it is indestructible. Then, if he is always conscious, how come he does not see in the deep sleep state? If you say that he sees, yes, because he is consciousness, so he sees, then still does not see. He does not see the particular object. Why? Tad vidiyamasti tata anyat yad vibhaktam yad pashyet. For seeing now, not only I should be seeing, but then this object should be there, that is object of perception, which is different from the seer. But that object is not there in deep sleep state. All objects are merged in ignorance or in darkness of ignorance. Therefore, the duality or the separateness that is required between the seer and the seen, which happens in normal cases in waking state, is not there in deep sleep state, and therefore, Vishesha Jnanam, the specific knowledge, the particular knowledge of flower, is not there in the deep sleep state, but the Jnanam, which is the nature of Atma, is there. That's why it says it sees. Because to see or to be conscious is nature, and still does not see, meaning that it doesn't have the knowledge of the particular knowledge of a name and form. Dvidiyamasti tada anyad vibhaktam yat pashyet. Because in deep sleep state, that entity such as flower separate from me is not there, which I could see, because everything has merged into darkness of ignorance in deep sleep state. And then it goes on. We already read Viditatmananda jigrati, that it does not smell. Smelling, it does not smell. Who really smells? Well, the organ of perception, namely the nose. But then, when can it smell? When the mind is conscious. When can the mind be conscious? When Atma, the consciousness, is there. So who is the ultimate smeller? Ultimately, the self is the ultimate smeller. So he is there. So Atma smells in a way, just by being conscious that you can say he sees and he touches and smells and tastes and so forth. So ultimate seer is Atma, ultimate taster is Atma, ultimate smeller is Atma. But the particular tasting, particular seeing, particular smelling may not be there. If the organ that is required for that particular experience is not there, so while smelling, meaning that because he shines as consciousness, so he is ultimate smeller, so he smells just by being conscious. By smelling, I don't mean that Atma smells. But what we mean is that ultimately the consciousness is required for the act of smelling to take place, and that is Atma. Therefore, you can say that Atma is the ultimate smeller, ultimate seer, ultimate taster, etc. Tanna rasayate, that it does not taste, is tasting, it does not taste. Taste means being conscious. He doesn't have particular experience of taste. Tanna vadati, even while speaking, he does not speak, meaning that his consciousness, therefore, speaking cannot take place without him, so you can say he speaks in a secondary sense. But primary sense, speaking doesn't take place because it requires the organ of speech. So when it said he sees in a secondary sense, does not see in the primary sense. He sees because his consciousness does not see, meaning he does not see any particular entities because the equipment required for that seeing is not there, it was merged in ignorance. Tanna shrunoti, does not listen, hear, while hearing it does not hear. Tanna manute, does not think, while thinking it does not think. So, as Puja Swami said, there is Upanishad does not shy away from repeating itself in a way, so that it is drilled in our mind. If it is said once, then we may. He is seeing, he does not see. But Swami, how about smelling or speaking? That's why each one is stated here, so that we are very clear that as consciousness is ultimately a seer, thinker, hearer, smeller, taster, toucher, but a particular organ creates the experience of particular seeing, hearing, thinking, etc. Then passage 29 says the same thing on the page 12. Yadvai tanna sprushate, sprushan vai tanna sprushate, nahi sprashtuhu, sprashtehe, viparilopo vidyate, avinashitvat, natu tadvidiyamasti, tatha anyad vibhaktam, yat sprushed. So while touching, he does not touch, meaning his consciousness. In that sense, he is the ultimate toucher. So while touching, but the particular experience of touch is not there because the organ of perception of touch is not functioning, so he does not touch. The universal touch is there, the particular experience of touch is not there. How do you say that he touches? Nahi sprastuhu sprustehe viprati. The touching of the toucher never ceases a cessation. When the consciousness of the toucher does not cease a cessation, but then the particular act of touching is not there. Next one. Yadvai tanna vijanati, vijananvai tanna vijanati, nahi vignatuhu vignatehe viparilopo vidyate avinashitvat natu tadvitiyamasti tatha anyad vibhaktam yad vijaniyat. That he does not know, while knowing, he does not know. Because the knowing of the knower never suffers a cessation. But to know a particular thing, what you need is the organ of knowledge, like the mind, which is not there, and therefore while knowing, which is essential nature, he does not know. The knowledge of particular objects is not there in a deep sleep state. Meaning the Vishesha Jnanam is not there, Samanya Jnanam is there. In waking state, we have Samanya Jnanam that this object is, Vishesha Jnanam, this object is flower. What is Samanya Jnanam? This object is. Vishesha Jnanam, this object is. Vishesha Jnanam, particular knowledge. Samanya Jnanam, universal knowledge, common knowledge, that this is. Vishesha Jnanam, particular knowledge, that this is a part. This particular thing can happen through the sense organs and mind. Since in deep sleep they are not there, therefore the Vishesha Jnanam is not there, Samanya Jnanam is there. In waking we have Samanya Jnanam as well as Vishesha Jnanam, and dream also. For the dream objects, we have the Samanya Jnanam and Vishesha Jnanam. Evam sushuptau, thus in deep sleep state there is no duality, and therefore the Vishesha Jnanam is not there. To contrast the experience of deep sleep, what is brought to our attention is the experience in the waking state, where the Vishesha Jnanam also is there. So next passage, the passage 31. Yatra va anyat iva syat tatra anyah anyat pashyed anyah anyat jigred anyah anyat drasayed anyah anyat vaded anyah anyat shruyat anyah anyat manvita anyah anyas prushet anyah anyat vijaniyat. So again, everything is wrapped up in one verse. On the other hand, as in waking state, yatrava anyat ivasyat, when there is something else, as it were, anyat iva, there is iva, as though, where there is as though duality. As in waking state, when there is as though something else or someone else, then one can see something, one can hear something, one can smell something. Meaning that experience to take place, we require the duality of the seer, seen and seeing, smeller, smelling. Thus, this duality, anyat, another one is required. So in the waking state, the ignorance presents all this duality. The point is, there is no duality in the deep sleep state, Swamiji. Where does it come from in the waking state? Something that is not there in one condition and is there in another condition will be called mithya. Satyam means that which is there at all the times and all conditions. Therefore, that which is there in waking, dream, deep sleep, that alone can be called satyam or truth. And that which is there in one state and not in another state is only incidental. Therefore, all this duality that we see in the waking state is incident anyat iva, as though there is another one. Therefore, this division of the subject and object is created even though originally it is not there. Meaning that in reality, the subject is not, object is not different from subject and vice versa. How do you say, Swami? That I am the object, you are subject, and that I am different from you. And you are the object, I am subject, I am different from you. That is true, but if you are really different, really different, then in deep sleep, where did that difference go away? Where did it go away? If difference was real, what is called real is that which exists or which obtains under all conditions, in all periods of time. That alone is called satyam, abadhitam, which can never be negated. That is called satyam in Vedanta. So what does Vedanta call satyam? Abadhitam. What is badhatam? That which can be negated. The whole world becomes negated when all the colors and forms become negated when I close my eyes. All sounds become negated when I close my ears, etc. And the whole world of names and forms become negated when I withdraw my mind and go to sleep. Meaning that these things are dependent upon my seeing them. Are they there because they are there, or are they there because I see them? You are there because on your own, or you are there because I see you? You are there, I will not complicate it much, but the point is that ultimately what we call the duality is an appearance, just as we have the duality in the dream state. In the dream also, sometimes I have a similar experience that I am conducting a class and there is an audience sitting there and listening to me. So in a dream, when I have that experience, where did all the listeners come from? There you were attending a retreat. You did not have to pay any fees. Isn't it? We did not have to build a hall. You did not need any sound system, but it's all created, projected by the mind. The dream state, it is all projected, that we accept. Because when we wake up, then it's not there. Therefore, we know that in dream also, even though it appeared, it's not really there. So in the waking state also it appears. How do you say it is there? Just listen, when I was dreaming, I had a similar experience. At that time I thought that is real. That there is a real audience there, and there is a real speaker here, and there is a real setup there. This is what I thought in a state of dream. Only when I woke up, then I realized that it was all my imagination or the projection of the mind. How about the waking state? No, Swami, this is real, this is all tangible. In a dream also I was doing that. At that time this was tangible. So what is the basic difference between the dream and waking state? We think that this is all tangible, because I can touch Swamiji, I can strike. But that also happened in dream. But I could do the same thing. Therefore, dream also is not substantially different. Waking is not substantially different from dream. I have to say all of this. Anyat eva syat. As though when there is another one. As though means really another one is not there, but conditionally it is there, meaning that really you are not different from me. It depends upon what I mean by me. If by me or I mean this just the body, or the self confined to the body, then everything outside of the body is different from me. How do you say that you are only confined to the body? What is your essential nature? I. Who am I? I. So what is the height of that I? What is the dimension of the I? What is the attribute of the I? Only when I say man, woman, tall, short, then all attributes come. But I itself that I am using is I that you are using, is I that, like in the ocean there is water and all the waves are there. The self of each wave is water. And it's one that then appears to multiply into many. Because even when there are multitude of waves, water still remains one. But many waves create the appearance of manyness, isn't it? So imagine all waves of consciousness. I am consciousness, the same consciousness you are, and this all duality or multiplicity is an appearance or a projection, just as all the waves are projection on water. Therefore, the duality that we experience in waking state We can understand the reality of this duality when you see the dream state. In dream also I experienced similar duality. When I woke up, then I found that, hey, this was all my imagination. So is it not likely that when I wake up from this state, what do you mean wake up from this state, Swami? Where do you go? Yat sakshat kurte prabodha samaye svatmanamevadvayam. First verse of Dakshinamati Stotra says, Vishwam darpana dusyamanagre tulyam nijantargatam. The whole world which is within me he sees, Pashyan Atmani, he sees within himself, he sees outside. Then when he wakes up, Yas sakshat kurte prabodha samaye, when he wakes up, then he sees that all this was one. In the dream I thought it was all many. When I wake up, I realize that all dream was just nothing but one projection of one appearing as many. Because when I went to sleep, before sleeping I was only one. When I woke up from the sleep, again I am the only one. In the sleep then, when you see many, just as in dream, where did that many come from? Before dream, I was one. After dream, I am one. During dream, then, if I have so many things, where did they come from? They came from this one, meaning that they were all projections, one projected to many. In the waking state, of course, we believe that this is a tangible thing and therefore we are really different from each other. When I was dreaming, then also I thought I was really different from you. When I woke up, I realized that that was my Brahmana or delusion. Similarly, when I wake up from this to my essential nature, that I am just consciousness. That I am so and so is merely a notion that I entertain because of measuring or judging myself based on my body or mind. When I judge myself by myself, then I am just consciousness. In that case, that's called waking up. To recognize that consciousness is my nature. And then all of these shines in the same consciousness, one consciousness appearing as all this whole universe. As the one mind was appearing as the whole dream world, or similarly, one consciousness appears as the whole waking world. All of these had to be stated at this time because yatar anyat iva pashyati. When one sees as though anyat, as though different, meaning that the difference that we feel that there is between you and I is as though. I and you, the difference that we see is tangible. Upanishad says as though. As though means what? It is projected. It is imagined. So really the difference between you and I also ultimately, because you are I, there is consciousness, I am also I, there is consciousness. Yatrava anyadiva pashyat syat. So when thus this duality is projected by the mind as in dream, then anyah anyat pashyet, then one sees the other, then anyah anyat jigred, one smells something that is different from oneself, anyat vaded, one speaks something that is different from oneself, anyat shrunuyat, one hears something that is different from oneself. Manvita, one thinks of something as other than oneself. Vijaniya, one knows one such things other than oneself. Meaning all various functions of sense organs and mind. So we think that we are all different. But Upanishad is as though different. You are as though different from me, or I am as though different from you. What do you mean, Swamiji, as though? Why, you eat, and does it mean that my Sangha is appeased? When you drink, then is it that my thirst is quenched? When you sleep, that does it mean that I sleep? No. We are different in every way. How do you say that there is oneness? So there is duality, just as it exists between various ornaments. So every ornament there is name and form and has a different use. That bangle is worn in the wrist and the chain is worn in the neck, etc., etc. But still, essentially, all the ornaments are one, namely gold. One gold appearing as many ornaments. So also one consciousness appearing as many names and forms. Many living beings, human beings are just a little minority. There are countless living, all of them are manifestation of one consciousness. It's a big picture that is presented before us. Difficult to comprehend, When there is vast duality and then the whole world and our life is based on differences. This is my country and your country. Put a line. My province and your province, a line. My city and your city, my village and your village, my seat and your seat, Thus we keep on putting lines and dividing things. By doing that, we think that, this is mine. I own it. But then I do not realize, Puja Swami, I stated this once, that this is my house. When I say, I am declaring that no other house is mine. This is mine, that means nothing else is mine. And thus, by claiming the ownership, we are as though confining ourselves. So, anyat iva, when we create the duality, creating these names and forms is one aspect of creating duality. But taking the names and forms as different from me is a real creation of duality. When I confine myself to this body, then everything outside the body is different from me, no doubt. But that required that I first confine myself to this body, is it not so? Then only you are different from me. If I look upon myself as just consciousness, like this part, only one part here, but anyway, there are some there. So this part, anyway, yeah, good. The Vedantins require parts, So one part space and another part space. There in Saraswatiji also we have a whole lot of things there. There are pots and pans and crystals, and here also there are a lot of things. So this part space thinks that I am such and such. That part space thinks I am such and such. The space thinks that I am part space, as I said, and feels or suffers from a sense of confinement when the space brands itself as part space. Then poor thing is different from other part space, different from the total space. So anyat iva. This, as though this part space is there, as though this another part space, as though each one fills in, one part space communicates with other part space. They may be friends, they may not be very friends, etc., etc. And so that kind of a vivahara or interaction takes place. Anyadiva, one space thinks that this is a different one. And there is a total space, a whole space, and part space, and class space, and we all laugh, is it not so? How silly this space is to think that it is confined. But consciousness similarly feels that I am confined to this. This is one part. Consciousness is like the space. Conscious that I am is confined to this part. You are, so anyat iva syat, as though the consciousness is divided into countless parts or upadhis. Just as the space is as though divided into countless parts and many enclosures, so also one consciousness is as though divided into many entities, many upadhis, many names and forms. Once that is done, then all the conflicts will happen. Because when the two are there, different from each other, it's not possible that you maintain harmony all the time, because a distinct personality and distinct personality here. Anya divasya tatra anya anyat pashed, and one sees something different from oneself, hears something different from oneself, smells something different from oneself, speaks something different from Varsa, etc. So this is the state of ignorance, or the state of division of the duality. But the truth was revealed by that example of an embrace of a man and woman, as though by example of deep sleep, to show the identity of Jiva and Brahman. In deep sleep, the Jiva-Atma as though embraces Brahman, and in that they lose the sense of individuality and become one. See, so that cannot become one unless they are really one. The two cannot become one unless two is not real. So the Jiva feels himself as different from Brahman. The deep sleep state is a state where Jiva and Brahman become one, because in the deep sleep state there is no distinct identity, there is no individuality, all of that is merged into one experience of unity. If two were different, they cannot merge into one. So is the deep sleep experience real? The deep sleep experience of unity, is it real? Or the waking experience of duality or multiplicity is real? When many waves feel that I am different from other waves, is that real? Or when they all merge into water, then they think that I am water, is that real? It's not for no reason that this deep sleep experience is presented to us again and again, because that is an experience very close to the truth. There, when it says that the Jiva embraces Brahman and loses the sense of individuality, that Jivatvam, the sense of limitedness, is lost there. It cannot be lost had it been real. That is called real, which will never change, which will never go away. The fact that this separation goes away between Jiva and Brahman, or between any other two entities, in deep sleep all that duality merges, is because when that duality appears also it is not real. So is the duality of waking state, is it real? Or the non-duality of deep sleep is real? Which is real? If this was real, it would never merge. The fact that everything merges into one, that means that the separateness that appears in the waking state is projected, is not real. So anyat iva syat. About the waking state, the Upanishad says, there is as though the other one. Meaning that other, in the quotes, is something that is projected, something that is created, projected. So then what's the reality? The next passage says, passage number 32, page number 13. See, you should have the passage in front of you, because we are discussing that passage and discussing every word of that passage. So then if your book is closed, then you do not know what I am talking about, unless you of course remember the passage and all the and your words are very clear to you and so forth, then it's all right. But otherwise, the way we are doing things is that we discuss almost every word of the passage where necessary. And therefore, when you are listening to this, it should be in front of you. And those who cannot read Devanagari, for them there is the transliteration. So let us come to the passage 32. Salilah eko drashta advaito bhavati esha brahmaloka samrat itiha enam anushasasa yajnavalkyaha enam anushasasa yajnavalkyaha. Thus, Yajnavalkya, in fact, instructed Anusasanam means teaching, imparting the knowledge, or Upadesha. So, thus Yajnavalkya instructed Janaka. What did he instruct? Eshaha Brahmaloka Samradite. Hey Samrat, O Emperor, the deep sleep state that is in the discussion is Brahmaloka. Brahmaloka. The Brahmaloka, if Tatpurusha is used, then Brahmana Loka, the world of Brahma. But Brahmeva Loka. Brahma itself is Loka, then Brahmaloka means Brahman Loka of the nature of Brahman. Again, continuing the discussion on deep sleep. On the state that this Jivatma has in deep sleep, continuing in the discussion, Esha Brahmaloka Samrat, he Samrat, O Emperor, this is the deep sleep state, is Brahmaloka. That is all we have. The closest to moksha is deep sleep state. The reason why this Upanishad keeps on only referring to deep sleep state, because that's the closest example that we have to freedom. Where we are feeling free in the deep sleep state because we become free from a sense of individuality, because we are free from identification of the body, mind, sense complex. Then in deep sleep there is no individuality. I cease to be an individual in my sleep, and you cease to be individual in your sleep. So sleep is the same where we cease to be individuals, where the individual is merged, where it emerged from. The individuality emerges from ignorance and merges back into ignorance. Therefore, in deep sleep state, that individuality is no more there. That is when we experience we don't know, but we experience our true nature. The reason why the deep sleep state is taken again and again for description is that is the state when we experience our true nature.